The document circulated also goes into the decline in the number of Indonesian language programs and includes the information that of the 15 universities that currently have standalone Indonesian language programs, in 5 of those there is only a single tenured staff member supporting that entire program. That is, in a third of our universities that have Indonesian programs, it rests on the shoulders of one tenured staff member. And that situation could be described, in my view, as nothing other than precarious. If the current trajectory continues by the NULS target year of 2020, in several states there may well be no university Indonesian programs to which our NULS graduates can go. But I would urge you not to be pessimistic. I don't think this is the point in the colloquium to pack up and all go home. I'm arguing that we need to evaluate these challenges realistically. We need to determine practical, implementable solutions. We need to regroup, we need to re-engage, and without doubt we need to encourage the government to reinvest in this area. Now, some may hope that if we bunker down in our separate universities and maintain the status quo and just wait, that cycle will turn, the numbers will rebound, and things will return to normal. In my view, that is not an option. If we do not intervene decisively, I think the consequences are clear. Indonesian enrolments will continue to fall, programs will continue to close, departing staff will not be replaced. We here have to take the initiative. We have an opportunity in the next 3 days to come up with ideas which we can then put to our universities and to our government with a rationale for those to be supported. Some of those initiatives may be confronting for us, for our colleagues, for our universities, and certainly one would suggest for the government which sets education policy. So what strategies are these? The discussion paper, which I'm hoping you will have had a chance to browse at least, tries to divide these up into ones that can be managed by a single university, where we adopt innovative strategies tested elsewhere in many cases. We'll have a session on that tomorrow. Other ideas which might be undertaken by a group of universities, clusters of universities, or as a national initiative. And other ideas which might benefit from support from the Indonesian government. Some of the things are pretty obvious. Increasing the profile within the institution of Indonesian, a web page, mailing lists, those sorts of things. Encouraging cross-institutional enrolment in languages and related units to broaden the suite of courses available. In a sense, it might be described as fundamentally changing a kind of institutional psyche, an attitude to language learning and language skills within a university. The question then is, how does one stimulate that institutional change, that attitudinal change? As at least one group of 8 arts faculty is pioneering now, facility with a second language might be designated a desirable attribute in all academic staff recruitment, whatever the discipline. Polyglot staff model and embody for students and colleagues the benefits of language competence. Influential officers like a Vice-Chancellor or a Dean have a powerful potential influence on that institutional attitude. Currently, even at a cursory glance, polyglot Vice-Chancellors or senior administrators are very rare indeed. And where they do exist, they are very rarely fluent in an Asian language. I can only think of 2 staff in Australian universities at the level of Deputy Vice-Chancellor or above who have competence in Indonesian language. How different would be their counterparts in universities in Europe, for example? where multilingualism would be the norm, or in Asia. Let me quote Professor Peter Hoy, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of South Australia, who stands out with a passionate call for Australia to have, and I quote, a sustainable and enduring language infrastructure. He argues we need to make some strategic choices about the language curriculum and focus on achieving genuine fluency in a tactical range of languages. Importantly, he goes on to say that we need to collaborate for the national good, even in the face of pressures to put institutional interests at the fore. There are various national strategies which we will be considering which will require us to think about the national interests in advance of the interests of our particular institution, or our particular university. Would our external Indonesian courses, for example, be of higher quality and more popular if we had a single national provider, funded and with staff trained specifically for external delivery? Are the current models of inter-university collaboration in the provision of Indonesian working, and are they worthy of expansion? We'll be talking about the Brisbane University Languages Hub, the UNE blended model, the collaborative arrangement between Flinders and Adelaide, the regional universities' Indonesian language initiative materials development. What would be the impact if the government funded the establishment of a national centre for Indonesian, such as it has already effectively done in Chinese and in Indian studies? Would a centre strengthen Indonesian, or would it in fact weaken us by placing all our eggs in one basket? Crucially, what is the role of government, or more correctly, governments, Australian and Indonesian, in the future of Indonesian in our universities? There are indications, we've heard some today, that the Indonesian government appreciates the soft power benefits, the indirect economic and other advantages that accrue when large numbers of Australians learn Indonesian, visit Indonesia, support electorally various programs which have a beneficial effect for Indonesia. We appreciate the indications given, and we await clearer signals from Jakarta, particularly at a time when investment in language learning from China, Korea and Japan appears to be increasing markedly. What does Australian government funding of universities say about the value it places on languages, and on Indonesian particularly? Has the Australian government ever determined which, if any, of the world's languages are of strategic national advantage? And would such a determination increase funding for the teaching of those designated languages? In the United States, the Higher Education Act, for example, requires the Secretary of Education to consult with federal agency heads in order to receive recommendations regarding areas of national need for expertise in foreign languages. Interestingly, the US Department of Agriculture, for example, ranked Indonesian as second only to Mandarin. And in one of its programs, the Department of Health ranked Indonesian second behind only Arabic. In Australia? Well, in May 2004, the Commonwealth Parliament's Joint Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade recommended, and I quote, that Indonesian studies be designated a strategic national priority, and that the Australian Research Council and the Department of Education be requested to recognise this in prioritising funding for both research and teaching. Since 2006, Australian government funding agreements with universities have officially designated Indonesian and Arabic as nationally strategic languages. Universities must seek the government's approval to close a national strategic language permanently. while I understand no request to close an Indonesian department, and I use the term advisedly, while no request to close an Indonesian department has been received by the Department of Education, I think all of us in this room would be aware of language courses that have ceased to be offered by universities. It's a mystery. As for the committee's recommendation that Indonesian studies receive prioritised funding, I wait with bated breath.